All right, I'm going to call the Ordinance Subcommittee meeting of Tuesday, August 27th to order. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Salem.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming as well.
Just got something back, so got a few things back.
Okay, so we don't have anybody for public speak. Let's dig into it. Let's dig in.
All right, so let me just see. So we're in room 1.
What are we covering today?
Well,
All the bases. It's like a little.
I thought we were going to focus on wage theft and cannabis equity.
Yes, we just got
Can
the
we-
bicycle opinion back like literally 2 minutes ago.
okay. Do you want to
Yeah,
give us some?
I would love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear what it says.
Sorry. SD, PC, OZ. Okay. Today's the 27th?
Yes.
Okay. So we got opinion back about the wage theft ordinance. Mostly it's like some language changes and a few questions, and I'm going to meet with the mayor and the solicitor next Tuesday.
So the day before our meeting.
Yes. So so realistically, like, we may have to then like adopt. I'll have to bring that stuff. We may have to like wait till the meeting after that to be able to really
Okay,
take a full
so
vote.
I'm sorry. I missed it. So the wage theft, is that what we're
This
talking
is
about?
wage stuff.
Wage theft.
Regarding wage stuff.
The changes that Lisa made,
So Lisa.
you're going to go to the mayor with that?
No, so Lisa didn't really make many. Lisa only made a couple changes.
Well, the ones we had talked about.
Correct.
Yeah.
No,
So-
the solicitor gave us a report back.
Okay, and you're going to sit with the mayor and
To
go
sit
through
with
it?
the mayor and the solicitor and go through them, because some of them, so I met with her the other night, and basically we started going through it bit by bit, and she said, because we were trying to talk about what language would be best based on suggestions, she said,
No.
well, he can give us language. And I said,
the
Tanner.
solicitor.
And I'm like, oh, that's probably the best idea, instead of trying to figure out like how to like say this.
Yeah.
So I would, and nothing was really super concerning. Like, I think generally he didn't see any issues. The only thing that came up was that the diversity requirements, the way they're written, are seen more as a quota.
Right,
But-
which is against the rules.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you could write it in such a way that it's seen more as guidelines.
Right.
And that's basically what he was saying.
Okay.
And that's very easy, just language stuff.
That was the gist of the kind of back and forth I read previous to that.
Yeah, so I was hoping to sit down with them, basically get cleaned up language. I made a few notes, but I'd have to look back at them. I mean, so a lot of them were like definitions and having not included things or needing to tighten up things. I mean, a lot of it was just like a lot of clarification. None of it, at least in my opinion, threatened the overall.
And so, and I think if we continue it, we'll be able to, at committee level, we'll be able to see all those things
on the 10th.
on the 10th.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so that was my hope, was to then re-summarize that
Yep.
meeting on the 4th, and then and have language to give you by the 10th,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully can have a vote on the 18th.
Beautiful.
And then so that's that on that.
Okay.
If there's any questions,
No, in
No.
here.
okay. Let me just write a note for another minutes that is pending.
Yeah, he must be in like minute jail.
There's a few that I can tell you later. Anyways, I think I need to not be as wordy. Discussed solicitors.
Impossible.
I have a funny story about that. Discussed solicitors' input.
As long as it's under 50 words.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I actually would like to bend your ear about that, but I can do that out of the Senate meeting. Okay, so cannabis.
Yes.
So the biggest issue there was around the meat of the issue itself, which is is it discriminatory to set aside licenses for specific groups? Is it reverse discrimination? And so I emailed him immediately and said, I was concerned that you were going to say this, and his response was that, I'll tell you exactly what his response was. So, I mean, I'm not really sure how to read into it. He said, all we did was point out concerns and where others may have concerns.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know what to make of that, other than, like, I would assume that he could have said outright that it's a non-starter.
Unconstitutional or.
Yeah, he said just that that someone could challenge it possibly, and maybe it could go somewhere, and that's basically what he said in his comment.
Okay.
But I asked him if I could, and I have already shared it with the CCC,
Mm-hmm.
because they're aware of all the state regulations, because I want to know if there's potentially state regs that like really put us in a better position.
Right.
And so Commissioner Title already got back to me and said that she's going to, she said it might take a few weeks, but I asked her if she could do it again by the end of next week,
Mm-hmm.
so we could have it again for the 10th.
Okay.
But that was the biggest thing. Some of it, again, you'll see it too. I can send you a copy. I'll send you copies of both.
Okay.
Obviously. A lot of it, again, it was interesting, actually, because it was kind of re-reviewing what had already been reviewed by our previous solicitor, so there was some input on some stuff there.
Oh, interesting.
But most of it was, again, like, kind of like definitions, like
Right.
pointing out where the definition could be less wordy, or why don't you just say as per this?
Right.
And I don't think there was anything super concerning. It was actually great. I was telling you before, I think he does a wonderful job.
That's
So
great.
I will send that to you guys to look at.
Cool. And so next steps on that, are we gonna continue that one again until we hear from, and then try to get that one out on the 10th as well?
Yeah, because I think it's in a status where it could, they're both like this close to having the right language to pass.
Right.
They just need some tweaks, and I would hate to see them pulled from, public hearing where
Right.
they just need a little bit more time. And then, so that's that.
That sounds fair enough.
I mean,
So will all three of these then be public heard? The ones from last time that were deferred?
Mhm.
Like equity, wage theft, and bicycle, all those go to the next?
I don't know, I haven't heard what bicycles.
Oh.
So we just got bicycles back, and basically, really quickly looking at that, I would like, where did that go? Oh, here we go. So I didn't see any concern. I didn't really see. I mean, mostly it was cleaning up language.
Right.
It was like.
Okay. And that one did get removed from the public hearings, right?
It did. So you have
So
to
I'm
set
gonna have
it
to set
for
it
the next
again.
one. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're
which
right.
is- Yeah. So we just have, so that's not a public hearing. You just have to set it. But basically, I looked at it quickly, and mostly it said like he gave some language changes. I think he misunderstood the width restriction here.
Oh, really? What did he say about the width restriction?
Well, I think he thought that we meant that it was just applying to low speed to electric bicycles
Oh.
and not to everything.
Oh, okay.
So that his input, while great, is moot because we're just saying the following are prohibited in any vehicle of any kind, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. He didn't. Okay, he cleaned up some language for us about. He cleaned up some language for us just around a few things, like the exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have anything to say about the livestock. Oh, I don't know if you were you
I
into that?
watched the video.
He had a great point.
Draft horses.
Draft
Yeah.
horses.
Draft horses, you must have spelled it like the beer.
Yeah, well, it was midnight.
Drawn.
Usually when I'm working on this stuff, and it looks more fancy.
It
Come
does,
on.
yeah, it does. It is a little, it's old Englishy.
Have a beer.
That's what he was thinking about.
He didn't say anything else. Let's see. Oh wait, let's see the commerce stuff. Not sure why you need this provision since the council can always amend the ordinance.
True.
The city council may develop a permitting process for the use of it. So the only thing I thought about that is so have you watched the whole video?
Mm-hmm.
So my understanding, in terms of our intention for making sure that we permit commerce, is very limited scope of things. One is essentially like taxis, and the other is people making making sales, something like that, right? So why don't we like develop some sort of a definition for like a bike taxi, and then say that they're and say that and address that and say that the city may develop that they're restricted pending permit, and then the city council may develop a permitting process for the use of bike taxis, and then some sort of retail, or I don't know what the word would be, like if they don't want to have a hot dog cart or something like that on the bike path, like, and then just say the permitting process, because there'd be two different permits, probably, right?
Yeah, there'd definitely be different. I mean, we'd have to probably have a whole ordinance for a bike taxi.
Yeah.
But we can just, right, well, and that's what that sentence says, but what I'm saying is that the sentence we develop is vague, and it might be better to say exactly what we're talking about.
Why don't we have an ordinance for just non-commercial and an ordinance for commercial? And then the commercial could include all the permitting and everything, and the non-commercial could just be bikes and scooters and whatevers. And we wouldn't have to get into the minutia. And this then could be the one that's updated as new businesses come on board.
I agree. I think the only thing we have to do right now is have like a firewall in place so that someone can't like run one tomorrow. Like you have to be like, well, you may be able to if you have the permit, but the permit doesn't exist yet.
Well, there is, stretching my memory here, maybe you can pull it up. We do have a mobile vendor ordinance.
Oh, really?
And there is a permitting process for a mobile vendor. So
Like Crooked Sticks.
Crooked Stick, a night shift.
It just doesn't specify on the rail trail, it just says around.
It does specify areas.
At events?
Like you can't be on certain parts of the sidewalk.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't, but it doesn't necessarily prohibit them from the bike path. But in order to get the permit, they'd have to say where they're going.
Well, do you want to just add something about mobile vendors and say something like specify that they need a permit and that the city council may develop a permit?
Well,
or
why don't you just reference the ordinance that has mobile vendors?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
2.9.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm trying to think this through here, you know, because if we just blanket ban everything, you know, I don't know how, I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I think maybe looking at saying, I think a bike taxi doesn't make sense because we don't have that process in place yet. So maybe saying, no bike taxis are allowed on the bike path, and we can just say that.
And then we go back.
And then what we do is we create an ordinance for bike taxis,
Right.
and then when we create that ordinance, we
Repeal.
repeal that piece.
Well, can't you just, or you could just put the wording in that all other are prohibited unless specified elsewhere in the Easthampton ordinances. That way you don't have to repeal anything.
Okay.
It's just, you add it.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just have a blank, don't specify a thing, just say,
Right.
Everything else is prohibited unless we create a thing to make it okay.
Do we have to say what those everything else's are?
No, because you put the wording that says unless there is something in the ordinances already
Right.
that speaks to that gives it the authority to be there. So you can't unless we do something,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
And that way you don't have to keep going back to this one to keep,
Well, yeah.
So do you say like you mean like commercial stuff though? So like all other, so commercial
unless
uses
specified
of
elsewhere in the Easthampton ordinances.
Right, and then you have an ordinance somewhere for commercial use of
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Okay. My wheels are turning.
Go,
Wheels are turning.
oh little hamster.
But yeah, so and I think, and I don't think the pedal people use the bike path, but if they did want to, if we use that language, they wouldn't be allowed to.
Why though?
Right.
Why do they're not, because you guys talked about it, they're just passing through town.
They're just passing
They're
through.
not
Right.
stopping to pick up garbage on the side of the road.
Yeah, and
Right. They might. I mean, we could sign the city could sign an agreement with them where they ride up and down the bike path and empty out the garbage cans.
Well, then we create an ordinance specific for that. But right now, so it seems a little onerous to me to start writing things that say, oh, I know you're
Yeah.
good in Southampton and you're good in Northampton,
But you
get
can't.
off and ride on the street.
Yeah, that's what-
I mean,
that's-
just let them go.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, I think we are in agreement here, It's just like, but if we say all commercial ventures are prohibited from the bike path, then we are, in essence, banning anything that isn't established within the ordinances yet.
Well, then we
Well,
word it such
yeah.
that commerce would have to take place on the bike path.
Right,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
yeah.
If
All
you're-
commerce taking place on the bike path.
Okay.
Right, because, yes, because it's pegged.
Or whose business model is built upon the fact that they have to be on the bike path for this business to work.
Right.
Like, those guys, they could go on the road, but let's just, they're passing
Right, because
through
they're not using it for commerce, they're just using it as a
for
throughway.
transportation.
Sure, and that's fine. I get that. Now, would Valley Bike be considered doing commerce on the bike trail if you're paying for a bike on the bike path to ride on the bike path? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because at Mill
Yeah,
Park,
but you're not making money from that. You, the purchaser of the bike, is not making any
the
money.
Valley Bike Share.
Mhm.
So that's commerce that's happening on the bike.
Well, do you wanna just write something in
I don't want to
Well,
do
we could
this.
just-
I don't
why don't
want.
we
I'm
just
not
put a clause
trying.
in for Valley Bike Share?
But again, you are not renting the bike for the purpose exclusively of riding on the Manhattan Rail Trail. You are renting a bike. You
Okay.
happen to go on that, you could go on the streets, you could go anywhere you want.
Fair enough. I just don't want it to be misinterpreted that like we are saying no commerce on the bike, and we literally have a bike kiosk on the bike path
So if we said
where
something
people
like,
are spending
like
money to
commerce designed for the commerce whose function
Sole
design
purpose is to-
sole function relies on the use of the Manhattan Rail Trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that-
Put that in there. I think that works. It's just, there's so many little.
I mean, that's the trouble when you start to put guardrails around things, that you
Right.
can narrow it down so much that you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, like we're.
And granted,
Now my stroller doesn't fit on there.
Yeah.
I'm not against the idea of bike taxis. I just think we have to be
No,
careful. This goes back to a discussion I had with Jeff Bagg about like these like Lime scooters that like you put stuff up ahead of time because someone can come tomorrow and drop off these kiosks and will have no recourse. So
But then even
Well,
we.
that's different, because
Yeah.
we would have to authorize them putting in a kiosk.
we would, but if we don't have any ordinance saying that they can't, like we couldn't necessarily discriminate. I mean, I guess the mayor could somehow find a way around like not signing that agreement, but like if we don't have an ordinance that says that they can't, we'd be pretty hard pressed to decide not to enter into that agreement. I'm just saying. But I mean, I guess you could always choose not to sign an agreement, but absent a law saying that
I mean,
you
they
can't.
can't start digging up the side of the Manhattan.
No,
Railroad
no, I'm not
unless we
saying.
authorize them.
I'm not saying literally that they can roll into town tomorrow. I'm saying that like there's nothing stopping them from coming and signing a contract. There's like zero ordinance within town saying that. So although now at least the scooters are excluded from.
Yeah. I mean, and the model is a little different for those because they just kind of put them like places. They don't have kiosks necessarily, and you just use your smartphone.
Those are disasters.
They used them in Ireland a lot.
Yeah, I used them at DC.
I just can't. It's something else I can't imagine. Like people zipping around town with those.
It's not big enough. We're not big enough.
Right.
Yeah.
There's not enough surface area
Right.
to ride on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So fortunately, no issues there.
Okay.
So I can tighten up that language and have it
For the 10th.
for the 10th.
Okay. So I'll set the public hearing. I'm gonna set on Wednesday. I'll set the public hearing for bikes. I'll continue those other two, and I'll set the public hearing for the DPW. We're gonna have a busy second
And the
meeting
other
in
two are gonna
September.
go 9/18, right?
Yeah.
Both Beth and, okay.
Yep. Those will be. And so on 9/18 we'll have 4 public hearings.
What's the fourth?
DPW.
Oh.
So what was that? So what was the gist of that again? It was allowing the DPW
yeah,
to
it's
do.
Changing wording.
Right.
Yeah, it's wording that authorizes the DPW to do maintenance work.
Right.
Yeah. Which they're doing.
Which
Right.
they're doing already.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. But I need.
But there was, it's
someone
in the
asked
May
me that.
18th packet.
Oh, May
And
18th? Okay, that's
I didn't
helpful.
send it to you because it's like 9 pages long.
The packet is, or
No, the part that is around the DPW.
Oh,
There's-
really?
There's
Oh,
Joe's request,
Okay.
there's the lawyer's response,
Okay.
then there's Joe's response,
This-
and the lawyer, of course, had 5 pages.
Mhm.
I had someone ask me for it, and I just so the May 18th. Thank you. That's at least that way I can probably like go back through. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that makes me nervous, I guess, would be around the cannabis equity stuff in regards to like he wasn't saying you shouldn't do this. He's just saying proceed with caution.
Yeah, like this could be an issue.
But parsing out licenses based on specific attributes.
But all these other cities are planning it. Like Boston has a
Somerville.
plan. Yeah, I'd like to see what Shalene has to say. I mean, I exactly what he said was exactly what I was worried about. That was
Right.
The only concern I had was that someone was going to say this is potentially a discriminatory thing.
I mean, it's discriminatory if it's at the detriment of another group, and that group already has six licenses. Like, we're adding.
I know. I think
But I think
ethically, I agree with you.
By the letter of the law.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
also I think the stickling point is the definitions of who you and who you are giving preferential treatment
And
to.
who you're leaving out. Yeah. And conceivably, could we get to a place where all of our regular ones fill, we have somebody in the hopper, we have nobody in the equity hopper, and that person throws a stink because they're like,
Right. There's one there.
you guys are not business friendly because
Right.
I'm ready to go, and
I'm feeling discriminated against.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna.
Well, theoretically, but
a lot
yeah.
of different angles on this.
Yeah. Well, the other question was, well, can people who fall into equity categories apply for non-equity? And the answer is of course, but they
Mhm.
don't get
They won't get any
the same
preferential
You
treatment.
have to
Yeah.
jump the line.
right.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Did you say May 14th? What time?
18th.
18th. Okay, so it came somewhere before that.
And it's right around page 30-ish, I think.
All right. So I just have to find when she sent us that packet.
Just go online, it's easier, where the agendas are, pull it right up. Because I delete. It starts to confuse me when I see all
Mhm.
those emails.
Do you guys care if I take the request to review mobile multi-passenger vehicle bike off of the agenda? Since we already have the bike stuff and the commercial
Review of
motorcycle ordinance.
proposed mobile multi-passenger, get that off
Yeah.
without prejudice, or
Yeah.
with prejudice?
Just get it, yeah.
I mean,
Isn't it kind of covered?
It's covered
Doesn't
under, it's
Public
covered.
safety have something?
public safety has
I don't
something.
understand why that's there, we can talk about it.
Mhm.
Well, for a variety of reasons. One, because the issues around that were more public safety issues, and because I spoke with Omar about it, he wanted it public safety. So
I'm gonna take that out of ordinance.
do we have to vote on that?
Then we can vote on it next at the city council. I don't think we typically run those here.
Generally we
Just
don't
throw it out
vote to
Sure.
remove it. We just agree that we'll remove it.
Okay.
Is that agreeable to you
It's
guys?
agreeable.
Mhm.
I'll deny it.
Do you want to make a motion to say that you're going to do that, or you just want to?
I'll just do it.
Okay.
And
What about on-off street residential parking
Oh, right.
restrictions? Is that still a thing? Is that
Yeah, yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
happening on that?
yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm actually hoping that by the 10th I'll have some wording.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, once I get through this, the wage theft and equity and bike stuff, I'm going to get back to the open container stuff. I
Yeah.
can.
Commercial quadricycle ordinance, is that also off?
Well, we
What-
still have that.
Oh, that's
That's the one where.
That's the one that might allow a version of them in.
Right.
I think-
On like
Okay.
streets or whatever,
Yeah.
like, you
Okay.
know, just basically guidelines.
Okay, we'll keep that open.
Because if we ban, I mean, if the width restriction goes through on the bike path, it's not allowed on the bike path.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it's not allowed other
In the
places.
world.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, we're gonna keep that one on there.
Okay. I can't find. No, I'll look for it.
So I have some old business I wanted to just run by you guys. Some people have approached me. I think there's like a renewed buzz around plastic bag ban.
Yes.
So I went to all of the places that would have been affected by the current ordinance that we have.
Yep.
Only one of them is in compliance, and I asked if they've ever been told, and nobody's been told. So because remember there was like a question about who was going to enforce it. So
And the public health person said, I
Yeah.
don't have
I thought
time.
the building inspector was
right,
gonna do
That
it.
was-
but he's busy. He hasn't had time.
Sure.
Do you all mind if I write a letter from us to those businesses and just remind them of what their obligation is? And what I wanted to ask was, how long do you think
Quote
we
the
should give them
ordinance.
as a?
Quote the ordinance.
Oh yeah, well I'm gonna send the ordinance to
Yeah,
them. Okay.
60
but
days?
60 days.
Yeah.
Does that seem okay? I just wanted to make sure.
And
because
really, all they have to do is put in a recycling bin.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it, and a sign on their door.
Is it a special kind of recycling bin?
Nope. It's just, and they can use any receptacle,
Because
but they
doesn't
have to.
Big E use a big garbage can?
Yeah, they just have to recycle them in the proper way.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to run that by you guys.
So all we're saying is have a recycling thing. We have no idea if at the end of the day they put them all into a plastic bag and throw them in the garbage.
Yeah.
We would hope that they don't do that.
Right, but
Yeah.
we have no oversight.
Well, I mean, I think we do have some
Are there
oversight. We could.
official boxes that you can put it in, they can just tape it and call a company and make them come get it?
There might be.
Because we might,
Because I know, like, when we had done the research, we had, Big E's, we basically, there's not a lot of companies that recycle those. And so we, found it's not, but it doesn't cost them a lot of money. So, basically we just give them the information of the company. And I think that could be part of, at 60 days with the follow-up, and I'll talk to the building inspector, I think, some sort of a receipt of them complying, I think makes sense. So, that would be an enforcement piece. But I just wanted to run that by you guys so I didn't just go rogue and do it
No,
all way,
yeah.
as you are wont to do.
As I did want to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So you do it.
SD asked about plastic bags and letter notifying about enforcement
Yeah.
of ordinance. Okay, and we agreed on 60 days. Yeah, there was a recent thread and somewhere on Facebook about full ban and various reactions there. That was interesting.
Well, I mean, I feel like, we definitely got a lot of input of like people wanting to be able to use them for a variety of different things,
Mhm.
which is, kind of.
I'd like us to get rid of straws.
Me too.
Mhm.
Me too.
I really
Yeah.
would.
Me too.
Well, there's a
I haven't
bunch
done
of.
any research on it, but
Well,
did you see, I read something though that they're starting to use pasta
Yeah.
as straws.
I like
Yeah,
cookies
a bunch
better.
of businesses do. So the Water's Fine actually had them, and then they have these basically these sippy cup lids.
Yeah.
The Brass Cat does.
Before we get in trouble,
Sorry.
maybe we should
Yes,
adjourn.
it's
Yeah.
not on the agenda.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
does anybody have anything else to?
I do not.
I don't think so. So, sorry.
No, that's fine.
I just want to make sure. So I'll get back to you on basically at the next meeting / the 10th about the two big ones.
Yep.
We just have to type up the bike stuff, like clean up that language.
Okay.
But are we agreeing
Including
we're going to include
The commerce piece.
commerce whose sole functions depend on use of the Manhattan Rail Trail will require a permit from the city council?
Or is
Or
prohibited.
Is prohibited?
Is prohibited. And then
Unless
and then-
specified
and-
elsewhere in
Yeah.
in the ordinance. Okay,
Yeah.
let me write that. Do we need the motion on that, or?
No.
Okay, cool.
Alrighty.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.